For our last video of 2025, we're going to do our first video with the exact conferences from 2026. And these changes include the Mountain West adding both Northern Illinois and UTEP as part of their replacement for the teams that went to the Pac-12, namely Boise State, Fresno State, Utah State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and that also includes Texas State, who's leaving from the Sun Belt. Another change that's going to be a part of that is Louisiana Tech going to the Sun Belt, but that looks like it's going to happen in 2027, so they will stay in Conference USA as of now. But I've got this sick Detroit hat on, so we're going to play as Michigan State and try to save Jonathan Smith's job. We're going to do 3 years, best team, best conference, all the things, and really look to see if the G5 improves with the changes that are made in 2026. But make sure that you like and subscribe. Help us get to our 1,000 subscribers by February so we can get this channel monetized. Other than that, let's go to the first CFP. Not a great start for the Spartans, 3-5. We'll see if we can make a bowl game this year. But the Big Ten is doing pretty well with 3 teams in the top 5. Indiana's undefeated, number 1 in the country. That's kind of how things are going right now. Penn State 6-1. They got to go on the road to Ohio State this next week. And Oregon just got a big win against number 23, Wisconsin. Who did they lose to? I'm imagining, it's that Indiana game just 2 weeks ago where they got killed, more so than they got killed in real life, but still got killed in that game. Okay, we've also got USC in the top 6, 7-0. We're going to have a clash between them towards the end of the season. And Ohio State is also in the top 10 here. The rest of the top 10 is essentially the SEC with Georgia, Ole Miss, and A&M. And then we've got Miami up there representing the ACC and Big 12 by Texas Tech. We've also got Kansas State up there, which is pretty surprising. Baylor up there, pretty surprising. Georgia Tech up there, pretty surprising. South Carolina up there, pretty surprising. UNLV towards the top, which we have seen when we've done this alignment with other changes. UNLV does do very well in the first season in the Mountain West with the realignment. So we should be seeing them towards the end of the season in the playoff picture, as well as Boise State. But the Boise State did lose a game at Notre Dame. I forget they had that game at Notre Dame. So but Boise State very easily could run the table here, win the Pac-12, and we could look at 2 G5 teams in the top 20 or in the playoff picture at the end of the season. Let's look at the Big Ten. Let's look at the not that. Let's look at the Big Ten and the Mountain West and Pac-12 standing. So the Big Ten, pretty chock full of top-level teams. Who did Wisconsin lost to Alabama in the non-conference? Yeah, they got killed by Alabama on the road in the non-conference, and then they lost to the Ducks. So pretty good otherwise. They beat Ohio State and Michigan. That's why they're still in the top 25. So Wisconsin actually could have something to say at the end of the season, being that they only have 1 loss in conference. Right now, USC and Indiana have the inside track on the conference championship game. Let's look at the Mountain West. They shouldn't have, or no, they will have conference championship games even with the 8 teams. So, yeah, UNLV should be able to get there pretty easily. And then Boise State has only had 2 conference games so far. So they're undefeated, but they still have to play, I think, everybody outside of Texas State and Washington State. So I think Washington State is probably the highest ranked team or highest rated team outside of them. So should see Boise State in the end as well. Let's go to the conference championship games and see what we're looking at. 4-8 in the first season for Michigan State. I don't know what my goal was, but a level 55 coach getting 4-8 is not great. But let's look. Okay, so Tulane was not a part of the playoff picture earlier on in the season. They are number 17. They've actually jumped over UNLV, who had a couple losses in conference. They're probably not going to make it. We have a couple ranked G5 teams. USC is number 1 in the country. That means they beat Oregon. I don't know why Indiana would have dropped. They didn't lose any games, but they dropped 3 spots towards the end of the season. We've got a top 5 matchup also in the SEC championship game between Georgia and Ole Miss. Boise State is probably the G5 team that makes it, right? Because we've got 1, 2, 3 with Baylor surprisingly in the top 10. Both of these teams undefeated, both of them outside the top 5. That tells you something. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably Boise State if they get the win. The next one would be Tulane if the door opens a little bit, which would only be in a Boise State loss. And then you would get UNLV, who we thought was going to make it in out of the Mountain West. What are we missing in the top 12 that we don't see there? Oregon is barely in the top 12. Probably not a scenario in which they drop out because they're not in the conference championship game. They're not in the conference championship game. Duke is in a conference championship game. Damn, 64-62 in a game. Duke is in a conference championship game. They are probably out with they are definitely out with a loss because Boise State will take their spot. That's the bubble right there. Michigan or Duke. Everyone else should be in because the conference championship games above are, 2 top 5 matchups, another top 8 matchup. Alabama, Oregon, Kansas State should all be safe on the bubble there. Michigan and Duke are really the only ones at risk of losing out unless something crazy happens, which you can never rule out with college football 25 or 26. Mendoza wins the Heisman, which happened in real life, but I've never seen it happen in college football 26. So this is a surprising start here. Perfect way to end 2025 with a realistic Heisman in a realistic conference alignment with 51 touchdowns, which is one of the highest numbers I've seen from a Heisman as well. So very, very good start there. Does look like we do keep the job. What other offers do we have? Just going to kind of look around. So we could go to Stanford or Arizona outside of Michigan State. We're going to keep the Michigan State job. Could be fun to move around, but we'll want to see if we can build it up. Let's see what the bracket looks like here. Okay, so Boise State does get in. Yeah, basically what we said, what happened. Duke lost in their ACC championship game. Boise State won theirs, so they're in. They will take on Indiana, who lost in the Big Ten Conference Championship game, with the winner taking on Baylor in the Cotton Bowl, who won the Big 12. The Big 12 runner-up is going to take on Oregon, Texas Tech versus Oregon in Lubbock in the first round. This game obviously is happening tomorrow. I will be up bright and early watching this game, 9 a.m. Pacific. I'm watching it at my parents' house. It's going to be an intense game. But let's go Ducks, see if they can pull it off. The winner of that game in this game will take on USC, the undefeated #1 team in the country, in the Rose Bowl. Michigan and Ole Miss both. Well, Michigan was not in a conference championship game, but Ole Miss was the runner-up in the SEC conference championship game. The winner will take on Miami at home in the Orange Bowl after they won the ACC championship. The surprise team? There's 2 surprise teams, 2 Big 12 teams that are surprising, Baylor and Kansas State, both in the playoff. Kansas State will take on Alabama with the winner taking on SEC champion Georgia. So we get 3 Big 12 teams, Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas State. 4 Big 10 teams, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Indiana. 3 SEC teams, Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia. 1 ACC team with Miami, and 1 Pac-12 team with Boise State in our first season with the 2026 alignment. Ducks get the big win. We'll see if that actually carries through. Boise State gets an even bigger win, 63-27. I don't think it's actually more points, but a huge upset over Indiana on the road. They will take on Baylor in the Cotton Bowl. Oregon will take on USC in the Rose Bowl, which is a rematch of an earlier game which USC won. Michigan gets a 2-touchdown win over Ole Miss, so that's 3 straight upsets. 4 upsets in the first round, with Kansas State getting a win over Alabama as well. So it's Boise State, Baylor in the Cotton Bowl, Oregon, USC in the Rose Bowl, Michigan, Miami at Miami in the Orange Bowl, Kansas State and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in the second round. 4 upsets in the first round. The Pack is back, baby. Boise State with another almost 40-point win over Baylor. They will take on Oregon, who sneaks past USC. So 27-26. So it's Oregon, Boise State, the 9 versus 12 elusive matchup in the Peach Bowl. We get the 2 favorites winning at the bottom. Miami takes care of business against Michigan. Georgia takes even more care of business against Kansas State. They will face off in the Fiesta Bowl. So it's 9 versus 12 and 2 versus 3 for a chance to get to Hard Rock Stadium for the national championship game. Oregon serves up another knockout blow to Boise State. They win 30-24. The Destiny run is over, but 2 wins in the first year for the Pac-12 in the playoff. More than the ACC, with Miami only getting 1. More than the Big 12, with them only getting 1. And I mean, the other two conferences is different, but they might be the third best conference in this sim. We'll see. We're going to keep an eye on that. Who is the third best conference with, or how well the Pac-12 does, I should say. But we get a Dan Lanning Bowl in the national championship. Oregon versus Georgia. Georgia wins 25-9 over Miami. They haven't given up double-digit points in the playoff yet. We'll see if Oregon can turn that around in the national championship in the first year. Hopefully a preview of things to come. The Ducks win 40-28 over Georgia in the national championship. Get the first national championship. Best team in the video so far. Best conference in the video so far to the Big Ten. Although the conferences are pretty even because we got one of each conference. Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, SEC, all represented in the semifinal. So it's all even aside from Oregon winning the national championship game. Still a lot to play for. Let's go to year 2. Okay, Michigan State is 4-4, so doing a little bit better than last season, and we're pulling in some bigger recruits, so hopefully we can get to a bowl game here in the second season. South Carolina is the #1 team in the country. That is a shock. I haven't even seen them make the playoff that many times, so it'll be interesting to see that. Washington just got a big win over our defending national champion, Oregon, in Autzen, so for whatever reason, they're playing that game. It wasn't the whole point of going to the Big, whatever. They're playing that game in the middle of the season for whatever reason, but the Big Ten is heavily represented in the top 10 yet again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 10 teams are from the Big Ten. We have 2 from the top 2 are from the SEC that will probably play later on in the season, but we have a heavy representation from the Big Ten, the best team in the conference, or the best conference in the video so far. Tulane is our G5 team that's fighting towards the top. They do have one loss. I think they play Duke generally. Yeah, they lost to Duke. Duke is top 12 team currently. Duke was just outside of the playoff last year by virtue of losing the ACC championship game, so we'll see if they make it back in. Of course, Duke, for whatever reason, is a juggernaut in CFB 26. Boise State was our last year's G5 representative that got multiple wins. They lost in a rematch of a playoff game last season against Oregon at the beginning of this season. They also lost against Tennessee. Pretty tough schedule there, but if they win the Pac-12, they're probably in that conversation at the end of the season, along with Tulane, depending on what happens with Tulane. Let's take a look at the Big Ten standings, see if there's any kind of miracle run that Michigan State could go on. 3-2. Technically, yes. Where are our losses so far? Lost to Toledo, not great. Lost to Notre Dame, not terrible. Big time loss to UCLA and close game against Washington, but those are all losses. Yeah, tough though. We got to figure out a way to beat 3 ranked teams, and then Wisconsin, who was pretty good last season, so I'd imagine they're not terrible this season. So I don't know that Michigan State has a destiny run or even a way to really... They have to beat Nebraska. We have to beat Nebraska this week to have a chance to make a bowl game. I don't know if that's going to happen. Let's look at the Pac or Mountain West first. Okay, so Hawaii, who may have won it last season. They were in the conference championship game against UNLV. I didn't really pay attention because they weren't getting in the playoff, but they have a chance there. The Pac-12 is run by Boise State. Who do they have to close out the season? Utah State, Washington State, Oregon State, Colorado State. So it's really the Washington State game that is big for Boise State. And then we had Tulane up there. They had just beaten Navy, or they're just about to play Navy. They're just about to play Navy, who's the other top team in the American. But if they can win out, so they have some tough games. These next 2 games are pretty tough. If they can win out, they should find their way to the college football playoff with only 1 loss to Duke. Let's go to the conference championship games and see what it looks like. Yep, went 0-4 to end the season and got fired. So not a great 2 seasons, 2 straight 4-8 seasons for Michigan State. We'll see what jobs we get offered here to see. We should have taken the Arizona job last year. But conference championship games. Okay, so FIU actually makes a little bit of a run up there for our G5 representative, but Tulane is number 5 in the country after they win out. The Big 12 might just miss out on the automatic qualifier because we've got Boise State ahead of them. If they win, they will get the automatic qualifier and get in for another straight season. FIU could even jump over them. Hawaii could jump over them. So there's a lot of things on the line here. The ACC is also kind of on the edge, but they will get an automatic qualifier. Alabama and South Carolina both stayed in the top 2 that we saw. UCLA is number 3, so there's some teams missing here. Actually, quite a few teams missing. Basically, 4 through 9 are all missing from our conference championship games. So let's go look at what that looks like. But very interesting things going on with Tulane in the top 5. Okay, so USC is back in there. Duke is up in there. Oregon is probably on the outside looking in as our national runner, our defending national champion, I should say, unless Washington loses big and Pitt loses big, which even if they do, Clemson jumps up. And Washington beat Oregon earlier in the season. Who did they end up losing to at the end of the season? Northwestern by 7. That's a backbreaker there. Okay, so Ducks are probably out this year, so we'll probably have a new national champion, but Indiana should be back in, USC should be back in, Michigan should be back in, Alabama should be back in, and then we'll get some new teams. Maybe Boise State will be back in as well if they can take care of business against San Diego State. Let's look at the bracket. Jeremiah Smith wins the Heisman. So 2 straight years where players that are actually playing for their real teams in real life win the Heisman. Almost 2,000 yards and 22 touchdowns. That is a Heisman Trophy winning season if I've seen one. First things first, I need to put food on the table. Okay, so we get actually a couple upgrades. Wow, okay. Let's stay in the... I think we have a chance to go to the playoff with Colorado. We're going to sign with Colorado, see if that can get us to the playoffs. I don't have a Colorado hat that I can switch into, so we're staying in the Detroit hat. But I think Colorado is the best job if we want to get to the playoff. Speaking of the playoff, let's look at the bracket. So Boise State does make it back, and we've got an all G5 matchup, Tulane versus Boise State. So we're at least going to get 2 straight seasons with a G5 team winning a game in the college football playoff. Will it be Boise State doubling up, or will it be Tulane that makes it in? I think that the Big 12 is completely held out of this one. Yeah, there's no Big 12 teams in here after they get 3 in the first season, no Big 12 teams in the next season. There are 2 SEC teams and 2 Big 10 teams that get the first round bye. Michigan gets a first round bye with 3 losses. That is interesting. Multiple teams with 3 losses make it into the playoff, including USC, Ohio State, Indiana, and Michigan. All 3 lost Big 10 teams making it in. I think Oregon's the only 3 lost Big 10 team that didn't make it in. Ohio State and Indiana, the Big 10 championship game from this season, the winner will play Alabama. Clemson and USC. Clemson also jumped up because they beat Pitt. So Clemson and Boise State are both outside of the top 12. They jump up and get into the playoff. USC and Clemson, the winner will take on the other USC, South Carolina, in the Fiesta Bowl. South Carolina and UCLA both getting first-round byes is a rare sight. Ole Miss and Duke, they will face off, the winner taking on undefeated UCLA. The only team in the playoff from the Big Ten that doesn't have 3 losses is UCLA. That game will be in the Peach Bowl. So what, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Big Ten teams. 3 SEC teams, Alabama and Ole Miss making it back from last season, South Carolina being in for the first time. 2 ACC teams, Clemson and Duke. Miami doesn't make it back from last season. 1 team from the American, and Boise State back in from the Pac-12. We have Michigan, USC, Indiana, Alabama, and Boise State as the 5 teams that are in their second straight CFP. So it's Tulane that gets past Boise State in the first round by 4 points. They'll take on Michigan. So Boise State doesn't get back-to-back seasons with a win in the college football playoff, but we now have 3 wins for the G5 in the college football playoff in this sim. Ohio State gets past Indiana by 3. They will take on Alabama in the second round. USC gets past Clemson by 6. They'll take on USC. So it's USC versus USC matchup in the Fiesta Bowl, and the winner of that game will take on the winner of Duke and UCLA, a basketball matchup in the college football playoff after Duke wins by 3 over Ole Miss. That game is in the Peach Bowl. So only 1 upset in the first round, and that was just in the 8-9 matchup. So basically chalk getting through to the second round there. We've got a lot of SEC and Big Ten, plus we've got 1 from the ACC with Duke and 1 from the American with Tulane, and Duke is actually the only loss for Tulane in the season. If they would have won that game, they probably get a first round bye. No magical mystery story for Tulane this year. They lose to Michigan in the Cotton Bowl by 10. They'll take on Alabama, who just beat Ohio State 63-61 in the Orange Bowl. Alabama, Michigan in the Sugar Bowl. 2 upsets in the bottom part with USC beating USC. The Southern California edition wins by 11. They'll take on Duke in the Rose Bowl, so we don't get a rematch of the Battle of LA. UCLA loses their first game by 3 to Duke. So it's Duke, USC in the Rose Bowl, Alabama, Michigan in the Sugar Bowl. And with that, the Big Ten locks down the best conference in the video. I think that's like the 3rd or 4th straight video that the Big Ten has won the best conference. USC and Michigan both make it in. They both score 35 points. However, Michigan gives up 31 and USC gives up 0. So we've got Duke, USC, Michigan in Vegas for the national championship in the second season. And it's USC that not only gets to win, but takes over best team in the video because they weren't in the playoff last year. Were they? USC was a part of the 5 teams that were in the playoff last year, right? Michigan, Indiana, USC, Ole Miss, and Boise State were the teams that repeated, and Alabama. So maybe USC wasn't in last year. No way to know. USC ties with Oregon for best team in the video so far. We've got one more season left, but the Big Ten takes the best conference in the video. We'll see what happens in the last season. One thing I want to see is, can we get another G5 victory in the playoff in the last year to get 3 straight in the video? And can we also get another G5 team that is not just getting in through the automatic qualifier, but actually qualifies for the tournament by virtue of their ranking like Tulane did this year? All right, so we're 4-4. We've had 4 wins each of the first 2 seasons, and Colorado had 4 wins last year. So if we can get one more win, this will be a successful season. Notre Dame is at the top. We haven't seen them in the college football playoff yet. We'll see if they can pull it off. They've obviously still got a matchup with USC coming down the road. Looks like UCLA just got a win over Oregon. Oregon's going to have to struggle to get back into the playoff picture after winning the first championship. They have 3 losses already, but 3 losses as a Big Ten team, as we've seen, can still get you in there. But they've had 3 straight losses. That's not good for the Ducks. But luckily, they have a couple more ranked teams that they can play to maybe get themselves back in the playoff picture. We had USC as our defending national champion. They're up at the top as well. Indiana has been in 2 straight playoffs. Michigan has been in 2 straight playoffs. Duke was in last year. Ohio State was in the first year. No, Ohio State was in the second. It was in last year. Oklahoma has not been in yet. Texas Tech was in the first year. Maryland we see up there, which we haven't seen before. Tulane was our G5 representative, one of our G5 representatives. They were the top 5 team last year. I think they probably they beat Oklahoma. Damn, they lost to Army. Otherwise, they are another top 5 team. How far did they drop after? Oh, they didn't drop because that was before the CFP. Well, Tulane could get back in there. Ole Miss, we've seen in there twice already. We'll see if they can get back there. FIU has been floating around the top 25. They could get back in. Damn, I had to sneeze. FIU beat Michigan State early in the season. Ugh. I wonder how Michigan State's 1-7. So they shouldn't have fired us. We would have been able to get at least 4 wins again. They lost to UConn. Otherwise, they're probably top 20 team. Shit, I keep sneezing. But FIU could very well win Conference USA and be in the college football playoff if they win out in the regular season. Let's take a look at we're in the Big 12 now. Let's take a look at the Big 12 standings for Colorado. Okay, so Baylor and Texas Tech were both in last season. No, they were both in the first season. The Big 12 didn't have anybody in last season. The 3 teams that are ranked were the ones that were in. Damn, I keep sneezing. Okay, but Colorado, we need 1 more win to improve and 2 more wins to get into a bowl game. We got 1-7 Kansas and 4-4 Arizona State at home these next 2 games. If we can get those wins, we're in a bowl game. That's all we need. It's just to get in a bowl game once in this video. We did not do super well earlier on in the season. One of our wins is an FCS win. Lost some kind of rough games there. 2 wins. 2 wins in a row, and we're in a bowl game. We can do it. We can do it. The other ones we want to look at the Americans. So Tulane has a pretty easy schedule outside this UTSA game on the road left. If they win out, they have 3 straight road games. But if they win out, they will be in the conference championship game. They'll be in the top 10 college football playoff. All of those things. The other one we want to look at, Conference USA, FIU. We already looked at their schedule. They could definitely win out. Mountain West doesn't really have anybody that's going to have a chance, and the Pac-12, maybe Boise State could find a way since they did have a loss to Duke, but this loss at the beginning of the season to Appalachian State is really going to hurt them. They've made 2 straight college football playoffs. If they went out, maybe they have a way to get in there with 4 straight wins against somewhat good, probably bowl-eligible teams for the last 3. So we'll see what happens. Let's go to the conference championship games. We won 3 out of the last 4, 7-5 in our final season. Very good finish to this one. We have a ton of G5 teams that are in the conversation here, namely Tulane. Tulane was like number 15 when we saw them. They won out and they stay at number 15. That's not great. But we have Louisiana, who also got up into that conversation. FIU, who had a loss. So they are not really in the conversation, even though they're in the top 25. Boise State is interesting to see if they could win. Who the winner of this game could be interesting to see if either of these teams fall, but it's probably Tulane that makes it for the 2nd straight season. Boise State misses out on their 3rd straight season because we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Kansas State makes this kind of interesting for, not really, actually. Not really, because even if they do win, Tulane probably still makes it. So the only thing that changes things up is if Tulane can't pull it off against UAB, then Louisiana, Boise State gets into the conversation. FIU probably, there's no way for FIU to make it with where we're at. Let's look at the top 25 and see what we're not seeing there. Oregon is probably the bubble team that loses out unless USC loses big to UCLA. They've lost a couple games here towards the end of the season. They just lost to UCLA. They lost to Notre Dame. So maybe that's the game that could get Oregon in if they lose by a lot. But most likely Tulane winning behind them knocks Oregon out of the playoff and out of a chance to win the 2nd straight. So really, actually, it comes down to the 2 teams that have won the national championship game to see who is going to be on the bubble for that final spot there. Probably Oregon out, but we'll see what happens when it all shakes out. And then from there we'll decide what's gonna happen with the best team race. Keelan Russell wins the Heisman for Texas Tech. I don't think I've seen a Texas Tech quarterback win it, and if my research is correct, Keelan Russell is currently the backup at Alabama. I know he's won the Heisman a couple times in our last couple videos. I looked it up. I think he plays for Alabama, so transfers to Texas Tech, gets 43 touchdowns and almost 5,000 yards, wins the Heisman. Where does Colorado go for our bowl game here? We're playing FIU in the Independence Bowl. This is a big game. So FIU lost their conference championship game, it looks like, and we're playing in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. Again, why does Radiance Technologies need a bowl game? Whatever. We can get a top 25 win and an 8-win season in the final one in our first year in Colorado. Let's take a look. I did look back. Before we look at this bracket, I did look back. USC was the number 1 seed in the first season. So they have made 2 straight playoffs. They've won a national championship. They did get beat by Oregon in the first run, but we'll see if they made it in. USC did win the Big Ten championship game, so they are in. They will face Tulane. That's a scary sight for USC in the postseason since they did lose to them in the Cotton Bowl a few years ago. But USC almost all but certainly locks down the best team in the video. Tulane, lots of Tulane would be rough, but I think USC is probably best team in the video unless something dramatic happens. Kansas State makes it back in. They have not been in since our first season, but that's their second of the video. UCLA is in their 2nd straight one. Texas Tech is in their 2nd. Indiana is in their 3rd. Ohio State is in their 2nd. So Indiana, Georgia. No, Georgia didn't make it in last year. So Indiana and USC are the only 2 teams that have made it to all 3. We have LSU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma in for the first times. Tulane, Georgia, Ohio State, Kansas State, UCLA, Texas Tech, and Duke all in for their 2nd times. So if anything, Indiana could win because USC did not win any games in their first season in. Indiana could win and tie with USC for best team in the video. But if USC gets a win here, Indiana lost last season, then it's probably USC for best team in the video. But what we're really looking for is, can Tulane get that upset and have 3 straight wins for the G5? We get the win in the Independence Bowl. We're proving it's just the Nassar curse. That's the reason we couldn't win at Michigan State. But get to Colorado, we get an 8-win season, win the Independence Bowl against a top 25 team. That is all you need right there to prove Jonathan Smith can really do it. Let's look at this bracket here. Tulane does get the upset, so 3 straight seasons we get a G5 win in the playoff. USC might be denied best team in the video because Indiana put 63 up on Texas Tech. They will take on Duke in the second round. Tulane will take on Notre Dame in the second round in the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma gets the win in their first time in. They will take on fellow first-time participant LSU in the Sugar Bowl. UCLA gets a win. They didn't win last year, even though they were the number 2 seed. They win by 20 over Kansas State. They will take on UCLA in a classic Rose Bowl. Indiana and Duke will face off in the Peach. We get the all-Louisiana matchup in the Orange Bowl, so that means we are going to get a Louisiana team in the New Orleans National Championship. Tulane beats Notre Dame by 7. The second time in the video where a G5 team has won 2 straight games from the 12 seed. They will take on the number 1 overall seed, LSU, who just got past Oklahoma by a touchdown. 1 versus 16. This is a March Madness matchup in the semifinal. Ohio State and Duke, both of the favorites, win at the bottom. Both teams win by almost 20 points or more than 20 points. Duke and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. But the real thing here is, can Tulane get to a national championship in their hometown, in New Orleans, in the Superdome, in the final season of the video? Fucking access denied by LSU. I was so hyped to be like, the last game of 2025 is Tulane for the national championship, in that exact voice. But instead, we get LSU, who wins by 10. They get the home game. They will play Ohio State, who also won by 10. Ohio State versus LSU, we could get 3 straight national championships for the Big Ten if Ohio State pulls this off. Otherwise, LSU can get their first national championship of the video. LSU gets the home game victory. They get the parade that stays in Louisiana. They win by 8 over Ohio State, so it goes Oregon, USC, LSU. USC gets the best team in the video, as they were the only one that made more than 1 playoff and also won a national championship, even though they lost in the first round to a G5 team. Big Ten gets the best conference in the video by virtue of getting 2 national championships of the 3. That's our last video of 2025. Thanks so much for being along. This is a pretty new channel. It's been about a month in, and we've already almost 300 subscribers. Really trying to get this monetized in the early part of 2026. We're going to give you videos every single day like we've been doing, except for tomorrow. We will not be doing a video tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday, and we'll probably do a video on the weekend as well to make up for missing Thursday. But thanks so much for being a part of this channel for this year, and to even bigger things next year. See you in 2026.